So I've been in retail for a long time. One of the things that I don't hear a lot of retailers talking about anymore is this one thing that will help them stay in business, and that's profitability. Profitability. I know we talk about tariffs all day long. We could talk about turnover, all these different things. But if you're not profitable, if you don't know what your store is doing from a sales and revenue standpoint, I don't know why you're in business. Today, we talk with founder of SkuMax, Maximilian Anderson. He has a platform that will help retailers understand profitability, understand what's actually in their store, what's moving and what's not. It's a situation that a lot of retailers are facing. They're not focusing on profitability, so a lot of them are going out of business. We don't want that. We want you to stay in business. So enjoy this conversation with Maximilian Anderson on Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy.
Welcome to Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy, where we go well beyond the corporate playbook to unpack major opportunities, hidden challenges, and critical issues that senior retail leaders face every day. So let's get started right now.
All right, so I'm excited for us to have this conversation. This is going to be a sort of a continuation of something that we've already started. But for those who do not know you, could you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Maximilian Anderson. I'm the founder of a new app for retail. It's not just an app, really. It's more of a new way of calculating our profits and a new way of improving our profits. So there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve involved with new users. But I think once they see how we're operating and once they see the value of the app, it'll all start making sense pretty quick. And it is for physical retail. I just thought I should probably make mention of that because I know we do have some online retailers. This is for brick and mortar stores.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you said that because I always chuckle a bit when I hear or read a story that says physical stores are still cool. I'm like they've always been cool. They've always been cool. They're not going anywhere.
It's about 80% of retail. I know everyone seems to think that Amazon, online, and yeah, there's some truth to that, but there's an awful lot of places that I go that are physical retail to buy my products. I mean, we can't avoid it. So
you can't.
So those are the people that we're trying to help. Yeah.
All right. So before we get into the retail stuff, let's talk a little bit about your background, right? And your I guess not even your start, but your experience within construction and what you did there, and then we can slide over into SkuMax.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So I've been in the construction industry for probably, I'd say 20 plus years, about that. And that's where I really kind of learned my workflows and sequencing, job sequencing, scheduling. And when you get into the tech space, you'll find there's a lot of sequencing and scheduling, a lot of workflows, things have to happen in certain orders. And I think the other thing was margins, really. I noticed that if you make a mistake in construction, it's going to affect your margin pretty quickly because we deal with bigger numbers. But even the smallest things for me, it's down to the receipts. I had one of my old mentors. He said, if you lose receipts, you lose money, meaning that you can't bill your client for that $40 or $100 or whatever it might be. And when I started getting into that smaller space, the smaller numbers, that's when I was thinking about retail, because retail margins are so tight. A lot of these stores, especially where I'm at, I'm in Hawaii, they're paying $14 per square foot. So it really, the efficiency that I learned in construction, I've applied. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but we have to operate efficiently in retail if we want to make those margins. Even those slim margins, we need every penny. And that's kind of the workflow sequencing, and the margins is really what I'm bringing from construction, I would say, into the tech space.
Outstanding. And one of the things you said, you just mentioned it just a second ago around sequencing, or when I think about construction, I always think about scope, right? Project scope, but then also scope creep, right? Because if you are missing a certain element of that sequence, right, that doesn't necessarily mean that you could just keep moving forward. Sometimes you actually have to go backwards to fix something, and then you have to move forward. I almost feel like that's a similarity that a lot of people within retail don't really get. They think if they are able to move the scope forward, then everything else will sort of balance itself out. And I would almost hazard a guess that you don't agree with that.
Well, I think timing is probably a big part of it, and time in and of itself. We need to perform on time, and I think maybe that's, yeah. I'd probably say that's what I'm bringing. That's what I'm bringing to retail. I'm bringing you guys time. It's something that you don't measure much, unfortunately. So I think yeah, time is our friend, and I'm going to make it your friend.
That's awesome. And you're spot on because I don't know how many times in my retail career I always would say that, man, if I had another 24 hours to get X, Y, and Z done, but I don't have it. So we have to figure out how to maximize, our timing. What drew you to the retail space? And we're going to get into the depths of SkuMax here in a second, but you were plugging along with construction. You understood the sequencing part. Um, understanding the products, and that's what you've been seeing. But then what was it about the retail industry to say, okay, I can actually take some of my knowledge and some of my expertise and move over into this industry?
Well, it came about when I was doing some remodeling for a store. It was a new store that was opening up, and I hadn't really played in a retail space that much. The first thing I noticed when I built this store out was that there was a lot of unused space in the
Mm,
store. And I was like, that seemed a little bit odd. And I started getting into conversations with the owner a little bit, about stores and profits. And this particular location was, I think it was $16 per square foot base rent, 20% of gross earnings.
mhm, mhm,
And I think the CAM was 4%. And so immediately I was just blown away, like, why isn't this place full of more products? And how are you going to make it? I was talking to that retailer, like, how can you make it under these such tight conditions? And that's kind of where I started getting more interested in retail and the math side of it. I have a that's why I do so well in construction. So my math brain started playing with her numbers in a sense, and I was having a hard time. I was having a hard time seeing how she could possibly make it,
mm,
and that's kind of what got me into the season retail. I was like, oh wow, this is a small business. They're laying out a big piece of their personal finances to fund this,
mhm.
and I didn't feel like the horizon was very pretty. It looked bleak out there. And that's how I started, I guess.
Yeah, outstanding. I love your focus, and you mentioned it earlier around profits, right? Because um, while we may talk about profits in retail, we don't talk about it enough. We really don't. I think part of what we deal with from a legacy industry standpoint um, is we're a little slow. Companies try to be fast, but they don't really have the understanding of what problem they're trying to solve, so in order for them to be fast. So when you think about, some of the ideas and some of the issues within the retail industry, and that idea, like, we don't talk about profits anymore, how does your not even just your app, but how's your company? Because it's not just about the app, I believe. It's about the ideas that you want to solve. How does that come into play with some of the things that I talked about the legacy industry, the slowness, and we already got it figured out. What are you going to be bringing to the table? All those different issues that retail faces.
The different issues that retail's facing.
Mhm,
I mean, I think one of the biggest ones I see is not knowing your true cost of goods sold. That's the first thing I notice. People seem to think that if they buy something for $100 and sell it for 250, that they made $150. Well, no, they didn't, because there's overhead involved and there's carrying costs involved. And so that's kind of the direction. That's the direction I'm going in, is trying to give the store owners, I guess you could call them the leaders, give them some clarity and give them some insight that they never had before. POS systems, they're just transactional. They store data. They just say that, Maximilian purchased this shirt at this store at this particular time. And they have to store that for compliance reasons.
mm,
That's it. That's all your system is doing for you. It's not showing you any metrics, any profits, anything really of much value, except that it's holding transactions for compliance. I'm taking that compliance data and I'm turning it into something that you can use day to day. I'm giving you live insights from a big pile of data that no one's done anything with.
Mhm.
And that's really the key. Is it's already there, it's already in your account, and I'm just going to show it to you, so you can make better decisions and see your true cost of goods, so that you're like, oh wow, yeah, I can't stock this item anymore. It's not making me any money, and that's just one item. You probably have hundreds, so
Yeah.
there's quite a bit. There's quite a bit for you to see. I promise. It's going to be exciting.
That's awesome. I think there's, what I think what you're referring to, what we tend to, not talk about is opportunity cost, right? Because when you think about retail, every square foot space within that building, there's an opportunity cost associated with that. Like, are you actually going to move a fast moving product maybe closer to the front? Or what does your actual assortment look like based on, the inventory turn? So let's get into little specifics around SkuMax and how it actually
Mhm.
is not so much just a bolt-on application, but it's already sort of it'll be infused within the current structure within a retailer. And if I'm not mistaken, you've decided to focus in on Square users first, and then we'll talk about expansion and all those things.
Yeah, currently we're going with Square, mainly because it has a large user base, of small businesses, and I really believe in helping the small business, because they're struggling. A lot of them are struggling. In my location, they are, and it's not that they're in the wrong place or that they have the wrong products necessarily, but maybe the timing of their products is a little bit off. So what I'm bringing is just a way for them to track their products, like they haven't before, and
Mhm.
be able to see, where those leaks are, because
Mm.
there's those slow bleeds that people just they don't know. There's a whole shelf back there with products on that hasn't moved in months and months. And what does that shelf cost you per month? Well,
Mhm, mhm.
I mean, time isn't free. I don't know anyone that gives
Yeah.
their time away for free. So I feel like that time on that shelf back there, I don't know, maybe it's $100 a day, maybe it's $100 a week. I don't know how much your shelf costs you, but if that product's not turning over, why is it in my store? What
Mhm.
is it doing here? Are we waiting for that guy to buy it every 2 years? I think we need to organize our products and get some clarity from our products. Our products are going to talk to us and say, hey, I do well and this guy doesn't. Well, we're going to keep selling more products that sell well.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
the bottom line.
I love it. I love it. And one of the things we mentioned, I think it was in one of our first meetings, you said that I've written down here. Every item pays rent. Um, you,
Mhm.
you
Does.
want to
Should.
expand on that a little bit?
It should. Well, okay, so let's say your store, we'll take a 5-gallon bucket and we'll fill it up, right? Maybe we won't fill it up.
Mhm,
Maybe your store is not that full, but we got a 5-gallon bucket. That's our store. Okay. And then unfortunately that bucket has a leak in it. And that
mm,
leak that's your overhead. That's going to be your rent, your utilities, maybe your cam, your payroll, all of those things. Actually, SkuMax has a nice profit calculator for you guys so that you don't
mm,
miss any of those small amounts. But basically, you've got a bucket of water. That's your potential profit, and it has a leak in it. And that's your overhead. It's constantly draining profit. And so my thing is, what we did at the end of the month is we look at all the products that we sold. They've
mhm.
left our store. They're not tenants anymore. They're gone. And the
Right.
money that we made from them, we have to pay our overhead. We have to pay for everybody else that's still in the store. Um, and so I feel like every item should pay rent. And what I mean by that is, the longer an item sits in your store, the less potential profit it has. And that's a concept that I'm going to need to kind of slowly coach you guys into. But basically, if I sell something and I make $150 profit on it, but it sat on a shelf for, 18 months,
Yeah.
what was that cost?
Mhm,
What was it?
mhm.
Didn't just, it's not just the cost of the good, it's the housing cost.
Yeah,
So finally, I'm giving you guys a housing cost of every single item in your store, so
yeah,
that the longer the item sits, the less the item's worth. And what's happening at the same time is we're subtracting that little bit of overhead, that little bit of leak from each product, every
yeah,
single
yeah.
SKU that we have in our store. is going to contribute to that overhead. So my bucket's got water in it and it's leaking every day, my daily overhead. I can't do anything about that, can I? It's just going away. It's going away. It's bleeding out. What I need to be doing is I need to be selling cups of water so that I can get more water to fill my bucket up,
Yeah,
right? My store needs to
exactly.
keep filling up. And what I want it to do is I want to fill it up so much that I put it in a bank account. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to make more than I have so that I continue operating. Because if I don't make any sales today, what happens? Some of that bucket, the bucket's going down, right? The bucket's going down every day. If I don't make sales for a week, well, here goes the bucket. It's leaking. I need to make sales to fill that bucket back up. And everyone in that bucket, everyone in that store, I believe is responsible for a little bit of that leak. So
Yeah.
I've developed what I call a display cost per day
Mm.
for every one of your products. But in doing so, we can also calculate profit in real time.
Mm.
So now you look at a dashboard and you can see your net profit accumulating. No one's ever done that, especially not from some old siloed transactional data,
Right.
that no one cares about. That's the point. So the rent thing is every item pays rent. Every item loses money every day it's in your store.
Yeah.
That's our philosophy.
Awesome. I think one of the things that I know you're going to be able to help a lot of these retailers with is how do you take the emotion out of the products that you have on your shelf? Because I was in retail 27 plus years and working with either big box or smaller box stores, but then also working with sort of mom and pop retailers. And what I found was that a lot of them were so emotionally tied to their assortment and to their products, and they didn't have any data to actually back up why they should be actually keeping it. It was more of an emotional decision. So how are you gonna help them break that sort of emotional, tethering to their products and just focus in on what's actually selling in your store?
As soon as you sync, you're going to get little progress bars on every single one of your items showing you how long your items have been there. And most users are immediately in shock. Wow, I had
Yeah.
no idea that had been there that long. And when you say that they're emotionally attached, absolutely, because every retailer I've spoken to, you know what they say? They say, my products,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
products.
Yeah.
What do you mean my products?
Yeah.
They're someone else's. You're trying to sell them to someone else. So that emotional attachment's obvious. And I haven't met a single retailer who didn't have emotional attachment to certain products,
Yeah.
but they don't know how long they've been there.
Yeah.
And for you to tell me, go to find a few products and tell me how long they've been for, it's going to take you a few minutes,
Mhm.
maybe more. You're going to have to go dig through some invoices and try and figure out when that item arrived in your store.
Mhm.
Well, I'm going to show you. You sync your Square account to SkuMax, and within a few minutes, you'll see how long every single product's been there, and that will take the emotion out of it. I think your emotion is probably going to be you're going to feel a little bit sick because you've got a few
Yeah.
things in there that have probably been in there way too long. But that's all right. We're gonna fix it. We're gonna expose them. Maybe we're gonna replace them with better things.
Mhm. Mhm.
We will help you. I will say that.
Yeah, that's good. I think um, part of the issue too when I see retailers is that a lot of these smaller ones, don't have a really solid rhythm to, one, checking their data and looking at it on a consistent basis. So let's just hypothesize and think about, a SKUMAX, user. What would you like them to do, with the application? Like, they come in, they open up their store, like, what does that look like for them to actually engage with with the SkuMax app?
Well, the first thing they're going to see on their dashboard is they're going to see their potential profit, and what that means is how much money they could make today. If you sold every single item in your store today, this is your potential profit. You're going to see how much profit you have on the line, I guess. Yeah. And then they'll be able to see how many during making sales during the day. They'll be able to see their true net profit today, the calculation of true net profit today. The
Mhm,
other thing I really like is they can see their average turnover rate. They can see how long on average items spend in their store before being sold.
mhm, mhm.
So the lower that number is, the better. If all my items sell, in under 60 or 90 days, I'm doing really well. If we start getting over 120 days, 4 months on display,
Mhm.
and we're not making any sales, we're getting into that seasonal territory. So I think that's really where we're going to see some changes. Is people will know right away what's doing well and what isn't doing well, just at a glance. So you'll know your hey, this is how much my store holds in profit. This is
Mhm.
how much my store makes or has made so far today. And this is how long all my items have been sitting in my store. And
Yeah.
you get those moments of clarity are then they all hit you at once.
Yeah.
You sync and let SkuMax run and get all that new data.
Mhm.
And then hey, we can help show you what to do with that data if you don't know. But I think it's going to be pretty obvious when you see how long things have been around and how little money you might be making on some days.
Yeah.
You might be surprised.
Yeah. I think your construction background in understanding time, in understanding sequencing, um, how do you get the most out of the current resources that you have without trying to add any more resources because you just may not have the opportunity to do that. I think one
Mhm.
of the areas that you're going to be able to help them in is what decisions that do they need to make once they look at the data because
Right.
if there's one thing within the retail space, we are not short of data. We are not. It is just the mindset of like, what do I do with this? How do I?
Mhm.
What's my next step? So if you think about that in the context of like you're working with a retailer and they're looking at their dashboards and things like that, I'm quite sure you already have a thought process and a game plan to help them think about what they should be doing next.
Mhm. Well, I'll give you an example. I have it's a future user.
Mm,
She's a client of mine, a construction client of mine who owns a large retail store. And what she does is she goes through piles and piles of invoices and finds items in her store that have been there for longer than 120 days.
mm,
This might be a little bit extreme, but you know what she does with those? She takes them to Goodwill. She takes those to Goodwill because she realizes she's losing so much money on her shelf space. It's a store in Hawaii. It's very, very expensive real estate. And so after 4 months, 120 days, she takes those things away. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that. What you probably should do is if anything's been there longer than 120 days is maybe put them on better display. Maybe they need better display. Maybe they're hidden in the corner and no one's seen them.
mm,
Maybe you need
mm,
to promote them, put them on sale, or some kind of local advertising saying that you're putting some items on sale. Whatever you might have to do, but essentially, we need to replace moving items with better moving items, better performers. SkuMax is going to show you your top 10 performers, the ones that make you your most profit, and also the ones that move quickest. The
mhm,
faster an item moves, the faster we turn over our shelf space, the more profit we're going to make. So that 120-day mark for most retailers, in my experience, is it's almost a dead product
mhm,
unless it's really been hiding out of sight. I don't know. There's some corner no one goes to. Maybe that might be something we bring up front and try and sell. Maybe it'll perform better. But if that item's sitting front and center in your
mm.
store and it's already on sale and it's been there 2 years, I think it's got to go. you know, there's going to be a time when we have to remove that item from our store. But as much as we can, we're just going to try and work with that item and move it faster. That's probably what we're going to try and do.
Yeah, no, that's so good. I think part of, what retail typically does, is that when a certain product hits that, well, let's say it's the 90-day time frame or the 120-day time frame, they will put it in the back end cap. Right, that's where all the clearance goes. That's where all of those
Sure.
areas of like,
Mhm.
yeah, long-term product goes and you try to refresh it, but you still have that
Mhm.
product in your inventory. You still do. So you have all this carrying costs, associated with it. So
Yeah.
I know that was maybe a little drastic for her to maybe take the clothes to the Goodwill, but I think more and more retailers will probably have to make a different decision and decide how do they want to actually treat that 120-day product compared to this product that's brand new that's on the shelf. So I'm excited that SkuMax is going to be able to help them do that. I want to talk a little bit about you as a founder before we get out of here. Right. So you're in the construction business. and now you're sliding over into this retail space. What are some of the
Mhm.
things that you are going to be bringing from? I know we talked a little about the sequencing ideas, but what are some of the other things that you're going to be bringing from that your construction background over into the retail space that a lot of people are missing? And it's great that you're coming in here in the context that you have an outside perspective, an outside idea of what certain things should look like and how they should be going according to plan. So what are some of your thoughts?
I mean, efficiency.
Yeah,
Efficiency has to be the first thing.
I love that.
If you're not efficient in the construction industry, you're not going to make it. And if honestly, if you're not efficient in the retail space, I don't know. That's a tough one. Remember I told you the story about the lady who we had an argument about time.
Oh, no, no,
Remember that?
I remember, but I think the audience would love to hear it too.
Okay. All right. So, I was talking to a retailer and I was asking them about profits because like I said, I'd done a little bit of construction in the retail space.
Yeah.
And so I started talking to retailers a little bit more. So after dinner one night, it was a friend of a friend. She's a store owner. And I was like, okay, tell me about your profits. And she's like, oh, well, it's easy. You just, you look at your sales and then, you subtract the cost of the goods along the way and your overhead and that's your profit. And I was like, okay. And I was like, what about time?
Mm,
And yeah, it gives me goosebumps when just talking
yeah.
about it. What about time? She said, time doesn't matter. She said, so it doesn't matter. The same profit on that item doesn't matter. And I'm like, but it's taking up shelf space or hanger space, and that isn't free. She said, yeah, but it doesn't matter. And it bothered me so much that I stepped out of the room. And I like my math brain, like I told you,
Yeah.
and I started writing down the foundational algorithm for SkuMax that
Mm,
includes time in the retail equation. Stores that use time in a sense, a little bit, but not like we do.
mm,
We're doing
mm,
things a little bit differently at SkuMax, and so that display cost per day, that shelf space, that time isn't free. Time
mm.
isn't free. I can't say it enough. So and oh, Steve, you think? Take a guess. Do you think that lady's in business still?
Uh, no.
No,
No.
she's not. Exactly. So, but
Yeah.
with SkuMax, she probably could have been. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have that live example of a retailer that didn't understand time, who failed, and so that's been my driving force this whole time to keep working on this, to get the algorithm flowing, integrating with POS systems and really helping that little guy. I can help the big guy, but I can help the little guy too. It's all just
Mhm.
math, but time, please.
Mm.
Time is so important, people. You really, really have to catch up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
SkuMax will help you. SkuMax will help you catch up.
Yeah, I'm interested if you were to see her again and, what that
I
conversation
know. I think about it.
would look like.
I think about it. I think about it. But you know what? Maybe I'll write her a check and thank her
Yeah.
for giving you the idea.
That's right. That's right. She's an early investor. She didn't know about it.
Yeah. If I hadn't had that conversation, we wouldn't be sitting here today. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Life can change. So
Yeah,
and hey, I'm gonna get
yeah.
I'm gonna get your store to change. I'm gonna make you more money.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
you
gonna
are.
do. Keep you
Yeah,
in
you
business.
are. That's awesome. That should actually be a tagline, like, "Stay in business with SkuMax," because if you don't make a decision on the information that you're gonna be getting, then I'm not particularly sure if you're gonna be staying in business. So, if you are so one of my last questions, so if you were to give retailers right now, I know we just sort of talked about stay in business and time, things like that. But if you were to give, one piece of advice for a retailer that's out there, something that they can, either do now or is going to take them, a month or something like that to get across the board. But what's one or two things that you would talk to retailers about right now?
I would say go through your store, pick 5 random items, and if you're too emotionally attached to your products, maybe have a friend do that.
Mhm.
But go get 5 random items out of your store and see how long they've been sitting in your store, and also see how long that takes.
Mm,
See how long that takes. You might have to go dig up that invoice or dig up that email or whatever it is. Time it. Maybe it'll take you 10 seconds, but I bet it takes you more like 30 minutes or an hour.
mm,
Where is that invoice for that one thing that I haven't looked at in 3 months? You have no idea. You don't have clarity because time is money,
mm,
and you don't know how much time anything's been on your shelf. So in my experience in construction, um, time is money, and if I lose receipts, I lose money because I
mhm,
can't
mhm,
bill a client for that. And I feel like in retail, if you lose track of time, you lose money. You lost track of time. That's all. And I'm just going to give you the time back, and I'm going to show you how much time everything's been here.
mhm,
And I think everyone's going to, obviously, should be pretty obvious when you see, oh wow, my first sink, Steve. I had a guy, his couple of items in his inventory been there over 600 days.
mm.
Okay? He found that out in 3 minutes by sinking.
Yeah.
So look, it's a free trial for 2 weeks. I don't know what you have to lose. Sync, look at your items, and be like, wow. And if you want, you could just sync and look at all your items and then never pay, just leave.
Mhm,
But at least you'll know that time is money, and you'll see that clarity real quick, without spending any money.
mhm,
I'm here to try and help retailers. Like I said, that lady who failed, it's disappointing, but I'm sure there's many more, and I'm sure there's people
mhm.
that are very successful that think, I don't need SkuMax. I make loads of money. Okay, great. Well, would you like to make a little bit more money? I mean,
Yeah,
I like to make more money. Maybe you want to make a little bit more money. Maybe I can make you another 3%, 5%. I don't know, 10%.
yeah.
For $30 a month, it's like the price of a lunch, and you can see how your products are doing. I don't know. To me, it's a no-brainer, but
Yeah.
hopefully everyone else feels that way, you know?
Yeah. Let me help you save some time so that way you can make more money, right? Because that's really
Mhm.
what it's about. Like if you can save time and actually have the right product, on your shelf, then come on, that's a win-win situation. I think part of and I'm so glad when you said this about syncing, because I know part of the problem typically when with new applications or when companies are using something new, it's garbage in, garbage out. It's about, like, how do you actually make sure that you have what you say you have, in the store? Because if you don't if your products aren't even in inventory yet, or misappropriated or labeled, then you don't necessarily know what you currently have. So when you do that upfront work and then you add SKUMAX into the equation, now you actually have a solid understanding, a solid foundation on which to build upon.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that upfront work, because SkuMax can only be as accurate as your POS system is. So
Mhm.
if you're not, you don't put much time into updating your POS system, and you have some items laying around that might not be in it, I I I don't have visibility.
Mhm.
SkuMax can't see what you don't put into your POS system. But I should mention that we're not ever editing your POS system. We're not touching your
Great
Square
point.
data. We're
Great
not
point.
we're not not doing any changes, no edits, nothing. All we're doing is simply read only. So we ask you for a read only permission so that we can see your data. And then we import it. We're running our algorithm, and then we're pushing that information back to you in a dashboard that's really easy to understand, visually easy to understand, easy to interpret. I feel like most people are going to take it up pretty quick. Once that sync happens,
Mm.
actually, to be honest with you, I haven't had anybody sync who unsync. They haven't
Yeah.
left.
Mm.
Once people see this clarity, and they see their store, their product, how they perform and how they don't, they need to keep seeing that. That's one thing I've experienced. So I will warn you that SkuMax might be slightly addictive. That's all I can say. You know, you're gonna you're gonna be looking at that dashboard and wondering what to do with those products that have been there too long. And that's what I want, because
Yeah.
that'll keep you in business. That's
Yeah.
what I'm here for. I'm here to keep you in business. I really am.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a fairly low price point for what you're getting in return.
Yeah.
That's
And
that's my
and
opinion. I think
and
we're
then
dead
you're
alright.
starting and then you're starting, you're starting with Square, right? But SkuMax has immediate legs, right? So any investor, anybody that's out there listening, right? Just think about, the problem that SkuMax is solving, traction that they're going to be gaining over the next several months. But then also think about the fact that if I keep thinking about investors, if if there's a company that has legs that can actually bolt on and integrate with so many other retail POS systems, man, it's a win-win. It's a win-win.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
we'll be moving into Shopify, probably Lightspeed, Clover, Toast, Counterpoint's a good platform. It's a little bit tricky for us to integrate with, so we're getting there. But essentially, there's 7 or 8 primary POS systems that will be integrated with within probably the next 6 to 8 months. So we have the work's been done. We just have to roll out, and currently we're rolling out with Square, seeing how that goes, and then we'll be quickly branching into pretty much every POS system we can find.
yeah.
I'm not building a POS system. I'm not a transactional guy. I'm an efficiency guy. So we're helping the POS systems users do. That's our goal.
Yeah. Outstanding. Outstanding. Well, Maximilian, I thank you so much for being here. Thanks for being on the podcast and super excited for what you're building and how you're going to be helping companies and stores stay in business because that's what we need. We need more retailers
Stay in
to
business.
stay in business,
Yeah.
stay in business and make more money and make more money.
Yeah. I mean, me too. I stay in business and I try and be as efficient as I can. And that's why I'm still here. I'm in construction in Hawaii, but I need those stores because there's not too many stores out here, and I want to keep you guys around.
Well, I'm quite sure you will, and we're gonna make sure we get a whole bunch of users over there. There's gonna be a link to go to SkuMax for a free 14-day trial. It's gonna be in the link in the show notes, so make sure you all click into that. Maximilian, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate you.
Steve, I appreciate your time. It's been fun.
Yeah, outstanding, outstanding.